Hmm. Faithfully delivering value, exploring the world's great books. Hi, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today I'm going to interpret the book Weak Propagation, subtitled The Philosophy of the Public Opinion World. And, oh, what exactly is public opinion? The Singhui dictionary says public opinion is just the public's words, but that doesn't seem nearly enough. Academics have over 50 different definitions for public opinion, and they've been arguing about it forever. The author figured out the core of public opinion by pulling together what scholars agree on in their research. At its heart, public opinion is all about attention. Take those hot topics on Weibo Hot Search. They're just people focusing on stuff together. That's public opinion. Honestly, we all live in it. We know it well, but how it works? That's a mystery. Why does celebrity gossip always hog the hot search and take center stage in public opinion? Why do big real-world issues fade fast in the opinion sphere? Seems like the opinion world plays by its own rules, different from reality. This book we're diving into today will explain why the opinion world's so different and lay out its universal rules. The author's Professor Zou Zhendong from Xiamen Uni. Oh, and he's also one of the creators of Xiamen TV and was its first boss. So there's plenty of his firsthand experience in here. All right, I'm going to break this down into 3 parts to cover the book's key points. Part 1, how the opinion world differs from reality. Part 2, the 4 big rules that run the opinion world. Part 3, how opinion gets twisted and shifted. Okay, first up, what makes the opinion world different from the real world? To get a better grip on the opinion world versus reality, the author uses Lippmann's two worlds idea. The theory says we live in 2 worlds, the actual real world, the one we can touch, and the other is the opinion world, built on what gets shared around. Most folks think the opinion world mirrors reality accurately, because in reality, we get so little info firsthand. So most of what we know about the world comes from what's passed on. Like that time a tiger killed someone at a zoo in Beijing. The US president addressed Middle East issues, and an earthquake struck Indonesia. Oh, most folks never experienced any of this firsthand. We only know about this stuff through what gets shared around. When these messages gain attention during spread, they form public opinion. So people think the opinion world mirrors reality. Sounds plausible, but dig deeper and it's not that simple. For example, in real life, city inspectors cracking down on unlicensed vendors are doing their job. They represent public authority. But in the opinion world, one misstep in enforcement makes them targets, instantly turning from strong to weak. Another example, celebrity divorce gossip easily overshadows important real-world issues to grab headlines. Why does this happen? The author notes, while opinion does react to reality, it's often chaotic or even opposite. So how exactly does the opinion world differ or oppose reality? The author proposes 3 points. First, the opinion world thrives on attention battles. Survival of the fittest. Reality runs on law and order, but opinion's top rule is grabbing attention, like celebrity gossip. Sure, it's less crucial than gas price hikes affecting daily budgets, but in opinion world, eyeballs rule. Second, opinion's power comes from winning hearts. Survival of the fittest. Opinion strength builds from the ground up, not top-down commands like reality. So, opinion power depends on supporter numbers. In reality, the strong are few, the weak's main advantage is numbers. That's why in inspector-vendor battles, the underdog vendors win sympathy and prevail in opinion. Finally, opinion victories come from dominating surface exposure. Opinion storms rely on surface-level intensity, not deep strength. Like in US presidential elections, parties compete not on substance, but who blankets more area with ads to sway voters. Why are the opinion world and the real world so different? The author believes it ultimately boils down to public opinion being a subjectively processed human reaction to reality. So, the rules of the opinion world stem from human nature at work. Adding the human nature variable makes public opinion a complex system that can't be reasoned with common sense. A complex system of reasoning. All right, now we know what public opinion is and how the opinion world differs from reality. So, under the sway of human nature, how exactly does the opinion world operate? The author proposed the weak propagation hypothesis for this. He thinks the most fundamental attribute of the opinion world is the power imbalance. Under this power contrast, the opinion world follows four major operating laws, which is part two's focus. The author summarizes the four laws as the advantage of the weak, the dominance of emotions, the trivial becoming significant, and the secondary rising to primary. And the first law is the advantage of the weak, also known as the weak theorem of public opinion. The real world is a strong world, structured like a pyramid, with the powerful at the top, looking down. The opinion world, though, is a weak world, an inverted pyramid where the weak have the loudest voice and the powerful are beneath. This is the weak law of public opinion. Therefore, strong groups in life are often weak groups in public opinion. For example, the wealthy and powerful adored celebrities and public officials with authority. About this theorem, many powerful folks might object. I'm rich. I can buy off the media. I'm a celebrity influencer. Whatever I say gets hundreds of thousands of likes. How could I be the disadvantaged one in public opinion? The powerful do have an edge in media resources, but when they deploy those resources, their high and mighty stance easily becomes the focus, turning them into a target. Take a simple case. A celebrity once topped hot searches over sky-high pay rumors, and their team quickly used media resources to delete posts and issue press releases. However, when netizens saw the hot searches vanish and their posts deleted, furious users pushed public opinion to a new peak. In the opinion world, such power imbalances are everywhere, and a slight misstep can trigger overwhelming public opinion storms. For instance, doctors just finished a major hours-long surgery. While the patient was being stitched up, other docs took selfies in the OR. When the photo leaked, it caused a public uproar. Oh, faced with public opinion attacks, the doctors expressed deep grievance. Construction workers can take photos with buildings they built, and artists can selfie with their finished works. Why can't they snap a photo after just finishing a tough surgery, saving a life, out of joy and memory? Isn't saving lives and healing the wounded more meaningful than anything else? Why are they being criticized like this by public opinion? Beyond patient privacy issues, the biggest problem lies in the photo itself. In this photo, although doctors and nurses surrounded the patient, their eyes and hands were away from him. In the public's view, the patient's an absolute weakling, lying helpless and unconscious on the operating table, while the docs who decide his fate, the strong ones, are selfieing. This contrast is jarring. So, the issue isn't the selfie act itself, but the strong figures in the photo failing to show respect and care for the weak. So, what should be done based on the weak law of public opinion? For example, if medical staff gather around the patient concernedly, with hands and eyes never leaving him, this won't easily stir public dissatisfaction. In summary, the first law, the weak law, teaches us that in the opinion world, the weak have a natural edge, and once strong and weak share a frame, it creates an association. And if this association doesn't convey respect, understanding, and care, it sparks conflicts, like in doctor-patient relations or between city inspectors and vendors. The opinion world also follows the principle of emotional dominance. This is the emotional law, and it's the second law we'll cover. The opinion world is one where emotion beats reason. Why is that? Because in the real world, where the strong rule, they love reasoning. The rules favor them, so they prefer to keep order through logic. But in the opinion world, where the weak rule, emotion is their tool to maximize resonance. It lets the weak connect tightly, forming huge public opinion energy. During the 2008 Wenchuan earthquake, famous entrepreneur Donald Trump, founder of Vanka, was lashed by public opinion over a donation scandal, even wiping out over 30 billion won from Vanka's market value in a month. In this public opinion storm, Donald Trump is the unlucky guy who broke the emotional law. Oh, on May 12th, 2008, the day the Wenchuan earthquake hit, Donald Trump donated 2 million yuan, which netizens questioned as too small.
Facing doubts, Donald Trump responded on his blog, saying 2 million was an appropriate amount.
China is a disaster-prone country. Banki's ordinary employees were capped at donating 10 yuan each. Such remarks drew criticism and even abuse from netizens. But after the storm passed, when people reviewed his blog, the main takeaway was that the text was plain, without malice or provocation. It all seemed reasonable. He wasn't wrong at all. China is a disaster-prone country, that's true. Corporate donations and charity should be sustainable. That's right. Donation activities shouldn't burden companies or employees, and it's not wrong that Vankin encouraged all ordinary employees to donate 10 yuan each. Even more so, where exactly did he go wrong? He was wrong in not understanding the emotional law of public opinion. He tried to persuade it with endless reasoning because he thought he wasn't wrong, but he didn't know public opinion is unreasonable, especially during disasters. At the worst time to reason, he rambled on without showing emotional care. You gotta realize, after the Wenchuan earthquake, news was full of teachers sacrificing themselves for students and scavengers donating their only money. Against such news, preaching about sustainable donations seemed especially cold-hearted. Isn't this just asking for criticism? Actually, if you harness the emotional law well, you can achieve great public opinion results in the simplest way.
For example, many universities' policies for poor students have been criticized, like setting up special subsidy windows, scholarships for them, and taking commemorative photos. So is this convict date helpful?
The intentions were good, but outcomes were poor. It hurt student self-esteem and drew netizens' criticism. Xiamen University's poverty alleviation policy was very smart. Xiamen University's cafeteria offered free rice and soup to all students years ago, hoping no poor student would go hungry while studying there. And this policy received widespread praise as soon as it launched. Although free rice and soup aren't as instantly effective as direct monetary subsidies, they're brimming with the school's emotional care for poor students. Compared to other financial aid policies, this measure has received widespread praise. See, if we skillfully use the emotional law of weak propagation to guide practice, we can reduce and avoid public opinion conflicts. In communication effects, it's like using 4 ounces to move 1,000 pounds, leveraging small efforts for big impacts. The third operating rule of the opinion world is that the trivial becomes significant, the light rule of public opinion. Now, the opinion world is a communication sphere that avoids the heavy and favors the light. Things important in real life may not matter in the opinion world, and vice versa. Simply put, lightweight things spread best. You see, major international events rarely stay on hot searches long. Instead, it's celebrity gossip and everyday trivialities. In the opinion world, they dominate like kings of the mountain. When leaders of 2 countries meet, public opinion doesn't care what they discussed. Instead, their outfits trend on hot searches. In an idol competition, ranking should be key, but unexpectedly, a contestant's meme goes viral. Why is this the case? As mentioned in the jungle law of public opinion, one point is that to win, you must compete for surface area, rise to the top to seize it, while heavy things sink to the bottom. Light things float easily to the surface, and the demand for lightness is a byproduct of our times. Short videos, memes, a network term, discussions about common life phenomena. These are all lightweight things that seem trivial with little value, but actually not. In modern life with high stress, people increasingly consume such content. It spreads fast, excites, gains recognition, wins attention, and is easily set aside without mental burden. Many famous public opinion events have leveraged the light rule. For example, Warren Buffett's lunch auctions. All bidders, after dining with Buffett, talk about their gains in interviews, but never mention the food. So why has the lunch become the most eye-catching symbol? Warren Buffett, because it's light enough. Eating is the most ordinary thing. But once eating combines with important matters, it creates a stark contrast, sparking public curiosity, then becomes pivotal in the opinion world and spreads rapidly. 88. In the author's view, Buffett's lunch has three elements. Buffett is the celebrity effect, charity is positive energy, and lunch is a symbol and catalyst, loved by public opinion. Lunch connects to everyone's daily life, but a meal costing millions creates a stark contrast that media loves, and it becomes a hot topic for people to gossip about after meals. Imagine if we swapped lunch for an auction, say, bidding for 3 hours of consulting with Buffett, or auctioning off donating 30 million for him. Could it still achieve the same public opinion effect as Buffett's lunch? Oh, Buffett's. The last operating rule of the opinion world is that the secondary becomes primary. This is the secondary theory of public opinion. The secondary theory tells us that the opinion world is an upside-down communication world where mainstream opinion is the least active. Sub-mainstream opinion is the most active. Why do reports of good deeds vanish quickly? Why is full positive energy mocked while chicken soup stories are deeply loved? Why is mainstream opinion the least active and hardest to spread? This needs to be explained from the root. What is mainstream opinion? Mainstream opinion is the form accepted by elites, supported by power organizations, and embraced by the majority. Such mainstream opinion is often common sense, consensus, or uncontroversial perfect images, like the earth is round, or people should exercise regularly. There's no need to talk about consensus and perfection daily, meaning nothing stands out to draw attention. Without attention, it can't ferment public opinion. Conversely, why is sub-mainstream opinion the most active? Because it's closest to mainstream form, close to elites and power organizations, and overlaps with public consensus. But unlike mainstream opinion, which is settled, it has many debatable points. Therefore, sub-mainstream opinion is easier to spread than mainstream opinion. Take eating as an example. Eating healthily is mainstream. In public opinion, it indeed seems there's little to say. Whereas the GMO food issue is controversial among elites, government support is ambiguous, and public acceptance is divided, this is sub-mainstream. Can we eat GMO foods? Can they be imported? How should they be regulated? These topics, whether in scientific circles or online, have formed long-lasting controversial public opinion. But note that sub-mainstream opinion is just a small rebellion within the mainstream framework, not an overthrow. Similarly about food, if you say gutter oil is safe to eat, that's outright anti-mainstream. Anti-mainstream opinion directly opposes the mainstream, spreads easily, but because it overturns consensus. Thus, elites, power organizations, and the public unite to reasonably suppress it, making lasting public opinion effects difficult. Now that we know the secondary theory, how do we leverage it? The method is simple. Transform hard-to-spread mainstream opinion into sub-mainstream by isolating one element and telling compelling stories, like changing perfect propaganda figures into flawed, ordinary people. Hong Kong crime films excel at this. Their cop protagonists are rarely perfect, often operating between legal and illegal worlds. They're not embodiments of law, but more like Zhang-Hu heroes. Similarly, heroes in American patriotic films use sub-mainstream images. They're full of flaws, fighting, cursing, messy relationships, etc. But it's precisely these mainstream-defined flaws and small rebellions that make them relatable, becoming audience and public opinion darlings. All right, we've covered the opinion world's basic rules. Time to dive into practice, how opinion is manipulated and changed. Part 3 of this article, including escape tactics during opinion wars. The author notes public opinion has life cycles. Manipulating or changing it requires seizing timing. First, the initial battle is over naming rights, crucial during opinion's earliest emergence window. Opinion naming methods include spatial naming using location, like Qingdao prawn incident. Second is temporal naming, usually for major events like September 11th. Third is personal naming, e.g. Maje Jue case, and finally feature naming. Feature naming highlights specific event characteristics. For example, Porsche hits pedestrian, emphasizes the luxury car. This feature cleverly caters to some audience's resentment toward the wealthy, clearly depicting the power imbalance. Oh, the Porsche owner strong, the victim weak. It's practically mastering the traffic code for public opinion fermentation. Why event naming influences or even determines spread? Because it sets the focus and scope of attention. For example, the 21 Ford Ting Sin tainted oil incident actually involved a soup noodle product made by Weichuan. And the oil packets were found mixed with feed-grade oil and cooking oil. Ting Shin had actually sold its Weichuan shares long before they only had trademark licensing ties. But this naming bound tainted oil to Ting Sin, leading to boycotts of all their instant noodles. If Ting Sin's PR team had secured naming rights first, renaming it Weichuan tainted oil to distance themselves, they wouldn't have suffered such losses. Beyond naming rights, there's the first reaction window. React immediately, but only acknowledge, don't respond substantively. If public opinion's like a spinning top, your response is the whip striking it. During negative opinion events, parties must immediately assess whether to respond.
But responding immediately isn't always necessary. Experienced celebrity PR teams handle it by acknowledging awareness, promising investigation, and urging against rumor spreading.
This approach is smart, shows proactive stance without fueling opinion with substantive comments. If both methods fail, an opinion still ferments. How to escape? The author notes public opinion has two natural enemies, time and another opinion. Based on this, 4 escape tactics: opinion diversion, shifting, dilution, and degradation. Opinion diversion means redirecting audience attention to new opinion topics. With luck, major political events, natural disasters, or worse entertainment scandals can rescue those trapped in negative opinion. But these are low probability events. Most opinion diversions involve PR teams wielding capital and resources. For example, a star from Company A gets caught in a love triangle scandal. At this point, Company A has dirt on a star from rival Company B. So Company A contacts friendly marketing accounts to leak the rival's news, shifting public attention. But it depends on how big the new story is. To overshadow the previous controversy, you usually need an even bigger one. The second escape method is opinion shifting, different from diversion, meaning redirecting focus within the same topic. The Non-Fu Spring Standard scandal is a classic case. In 2013, Non-Fu Spring was accused of having laxer limits on harmful substances than tap water standards. And instantly, Non-Fu Spring was at the storm's center, a fully negative water quality controversy. Yet the focus was successfully shifted. Let's see how they did it. Non-Fu Spring first publicly accused a newspaper of using 67 pages over 27 days to criticize them.
Then revealed that newspaper partnered with a company selling bottled water, shifting focus to a media business feud while water quality faded away.
The third method is opinion dilution. Basically, when everyone's at fault, no one is blamed. Share the blame to scatter attention. For example, in a school bullying case, the victim initially named one bully who became the sole focus of public condemnation. But as more bullies emerged, the opinion concentrated on that one person quickly diluted. The final method is opinion degradation, breaking harmful focus points into harmless ones, or downgrading the damage. Public opinion crises often root in harm, and harm always has victims. The first step in degradation is to reduce harm, especially for the most direct victims. The most famous case is actor Wen Zhang's infidelity scandal. His wife Ma Yili became the focus, responding with, "Love is easy, marriage isn't. Treasure what you have." Successfully degrading the harm softened the public opinion impact of Wen Zhang's infidelity scandal. Oh, that's all the methods the author gives for handling public opinion. Finally, borrowing a phrase the author stresses to his students, public opinion is a tool and a weapon. It can help or kill. Those who wield public opinion's sharp tool must be humble and compassionate. aiming for kind dissemination. In academia, views on this book and its theories are mixed. Some say, as a practical guide, weak propagation is successful. It helps the public learn its principles and view public opinion more deeply. But others say, as a book, subtitled, The Philosophy of the Public Opinion World, weak propagation is a failure. Because many theories rely on empirical research and positivism, lacking philosophical methods. If philosophy doesn't aim for liberation, critique, or stepping back to coldly examine society, how can it be called philosophy? So, after listening, what do you think about this? Welcome to leave comments and discuss in the comment section. All right, that's the end of our interpretation of weak propagation for you. Listening notes are below the audio. See you next time.